This video is my final video on cold emailing, and the results are going to shock you. So before I get into it, I want to say a few things really quick. Number one, I hope everybody knows that everything that I put out there is as transparent as I can be, whether it's good or it's bad. You're going to see that in this video, and I hope I can be respected for the truth rather than just only showing the good. Because in this video, you're going to see something that really wasn't too good. And that's why it took me so long to do it, outside of the fact that I've been traveling a lot. I had to travel for a few podcasts, and then I was on vacation because of the holiday. So there was a little bit of lack of time to get content up. So I apologize to the audience about that. But also, I actually didn't really know how I was going to do this video, truthfully. When I started the cold, and you can see I'll be popping up above the part 1 and part 2 of the cold email campaigns and booking appointments with cold email. But I actually think there is more lessons. You're going to learn more about how to actually be a business owner in this video, because it's not going to be all, butterflies and birds. Well, I don't know what that saying is, but you get what I mean. However, what you will get out of this video definitely is I'm going to give you the list builder name that'll all be in the description, as well as the snapshot to just kind of pull it into your GoHighLevel account if you choose to, if you want to do this kind of prospecting. Let me jump on my computer really quick and we'll get into it. All right, so what you can see on my screen here, in the simplest terms, I sent out 100 cold emails. So if I go over to my automations and I take a look at my automations here, I'm going to have here campaign number 1, waterproofing. Okay, there's still 20 prospects in the automation. Okay, still 20 waiting for their last email. Then they'll come out of that automation. And if I take a look at email 1, for example, okay, this is my email for this account here. So this is, again, I could show this on YouTube. If I take a look at the statistics, it'll say 38% delivered and 38% opened. And so again, and I'm going to go back to the dashboard. I'm showing this for a reason. Okay. If you look at this, then you're saying to yourself, well, email 1, only 38 delivered, but then email 2, 49 delivered, and then email 3, let's say 4, 45 delivered. It kind of doesn't make a lot of sense, and it doesn't really matter. Okay. We had a reply on this one. So if I go back and you could click this, it says view all statistics. Even that really doesn't help. So that is why we have the automations of campaign 1, adding prospect to the pipeline, and then whether they open or not. So that is very important to understand, is that when somebody opens an email, no matter what the email is, it's going to be calculated in that. And so if I go over to the dashboard again, in the grand scheme of things, I had 61% of opens on the emails. So 100 emails, 600 emails were sent, right? Because if 100 go in and there's 6 emails at 600 and 60% opened, or 61% opened, that means that 366 emails were opened of the 600, which is a pretty good stat, okay? The poor stat is the replied. Now I'm going to get into why that this is. And then I'm going to get into my philosophy, which I believe in wholeheartedly. So, and then at the end of this video, I'm also going to share how to get on a wait list for a challenge that I'm going to be doing. And this is the exact reason. Matter of fact, when I didn't really know how I was going to present this video, I've come to the realization that this kind of stuff has happened for a reason. Whether it was my busy life and me, only putting in 100 contacts, because with cold email, you need to do thousands and thousands of prospecting emails. That's the reality of this. If you choose to do cold email, your list needs to look like this. Jump over to my list. I'm gonna have to blur all this out, but these are all waterproofing companies that are doing over $1 million a year. You can see on this one, it's 21.8 million a year, 3.5. So that I had a list builder build me these. They got 511 of them. They found 511 of them on the East Coast. I had very stringent requirements for this, meaning I wanted waterproofing that was in like 2 or 3 states that, was near me, and that was doing over, I think, 2 million, or I can't remember, or maybe over 1 million a year. And so because of the stringent parameters that I put on it, they only found 500. There's probably a lot more. So you could do nationwide, but in the end, this list cost me $150. So it cost me $150 to get very qualified leads. Now, there was a gig that I used, because if you go back to my other emails, my other videos that I talk about cold emailing, the personal line is one of the most important aspects of this. And so let's go to an example of a personal line. You can see here on the right, I hired somebody to research. So essentially what I did was I gave them this list, and then they put in a personal line on each one of these companies. They went to their LinkedIn, or most of these sources are LinkedIn sources, and they'd read a little bit about them and threw in a personal line. And so what it looks like in an actual email is, hi, Alex. After owning Alexander Townsley Home Improvements for over 27 years, I'm sure you have countless stories to share, right? Little personal line. There's another one. I have to go back to the first emails of each one of these campaigns. Hi, Jason. Seeing you have completed over 4,600 crawl space encapsulations, hundreds of basement waterproofing systems, and mold remediation is outstanding. It's great to see you going the extra mile to serve their best in the industry. And then I go into the email. We talked about that in the other one, so I'm not going to talk about that now. So all I did was paid for a list. It was $150 for 500 people, 500 names based on my parameters. And then a Fiverr gig that I paid $55 to get 100 personal lines. Again, in the very beginning of part one, the number one thing that I told you was, if you have the money to spend on cold email, then it could be extremely well worth it. Okay? And so if I look at my own stats, I'm happy with all of the stats. What I'm unhappy about is if I go over to the pipeline that I built for this, 61 opens, 1 reply, and no booked calls. Now, I didn't even look at that reply. To be honest with you, I don't even know what it was. But the booked call, the manual aspect of this is somebody replies, and we're now in live talk with them back and forth and say, hey, let's jump on a call. Can I send my calendar link? Okay, I didn't really get that. But what could I expect? And this is the lesson to be learned. The expectation is you're not going to most likely book an appointment on 100 cold emails. Most likely not on 100 names. That's the reality of that. And anybody that tells you otherwise would be lying. Now, if you were sending hundreds and hundreds a month, I would say even thousands a month, you can get high ticket, high quality booked calls. This is not my game. Okay. When I say this is not my game, we have students who utilize this and get extremely, I've interviewed one of them, extremely good results from it. But this is where the lesson needs to be learned. The biggest mistake that people make is doing exactly what I did, was hot and heavy in the beginning, let the system run, but then never fed the system again. I never went back and ordered more names or more personal lines. I needed to continue to keep feeding this automation. I needed to. You can't expect a result out of 100 prospects. It's impossible. And that's also with cold calling. Just because you have 100 phone numbers of prospects and you cold call 100, that doesn't mean you're going to get anything. I'll put the case study up here. He talks about how he was cold calling thousands of people. Now, since 2014, when I started this business, I never made a cold call or sent a cold email. Doesn't mean that other people can't succeed at it. It's not my choice. And that's where I segue into the challenge that I'm going to be bringing in January. The link down below to get on the wait list for that challenge, and then we will announce it, is in the description as well as in the first comment of this video. And here's the main reason that I want to do this challenge. Because so many people watch videos on YouTube on how to cold email, how to cold call, how to do this, how to do that in an SMMA or agency. And they take the hardest approach possible. And my challenge in January is going to be taking the smartest approach possible. Now, it is fine to do cold emailing if somebody's running your system for you, unless you believe that that's going to be the only system that you run. And that goes again to the hunter who chases two rabbits, does not catch any. And so while you may want to do cold emailing, I highly suggest that it's not you to do it unless that's the only thing that you're doing. If you want to do cold calling, I highly suggest that you hire somebody to do it, or you do it yourself and that's the only thing you're doing. The system to book appointments with cold emailing needs to be fed daily. You need to upload thousands of names, not all at once, slowly send thousands of emails. If you think about it, when I initially uploaded this contact list, it was November 6th. Yeah, it was November 6th. And now we're December 4th, a month later. And I fed the system 20 names. I basically uploaded 100 first, and then I tagged them campaign 1, which is the trigger of that automation. And what I ended up doing was every day for a week, I just sat there, highlighted them, added the tag, and then the tag automatically added it, went to the next page, next 20, added the tag, went to the next 20, added the campaign 1 tag, and then it added it. So for 5 days, and it's still almost a month later, or almost a month later, and I still have 20 people going through my automations, and who knows, maybe that last email will get one of them, okay? So when you talk about prospecting and cold emailing, yeah, the system's going to work if I keep feeding it and feeding it and feeding it, and maybe I will, just to kind of prove a point, but this is not my cup of tea. Everybody knows this who knows me. I hate cold anything. That's why I like to do leads in advance. I like to do warm market and going through the process of warm market. And that is exactly what our challenge is going to be. It's going to say, forget AI, forget cold prospecting, forget cold emailing, forget cold calling, forget all that. Here is the best prospecting method. You have what we call arm's reach and computer's reach. And those two prospecting methods we teach in our coaching, but also we do also teach these things in our coaching. This is actually one of our mentorships, Get This Training. They are warned over and over again that if you're going to do this, this needs to be the only thing that you're going to do. You need to man the conversations tab. You need to continue to feed the machine over and over and over again. You need to get a big list, and you need to go to Fiverr and get that list personalized. That's the reality of it. And if I look over this process, the 3 mistakes that I made 3 very big mistakes. Number 1, the requested list. I requested the owner or the CEO. I should have requested the marketing manager or the manager. Ultimately, a CEO or the owner of these large companies, they're not going to be making decisions on the marketing tactics. That's what the marketing department is going to do. So I kind of requested the wrong person to go after. That's number 1. Number 2, as I mentioned, I didn't feed the system. I didn't feed the machine. The machine needs to be filled. You can't just fill it for 5 days and expect anything to come back. You got to play the law of large numbers. And number 3, I didn't stay in my lane. Cold emailing was what my partner does a lot of that, landed a lot of high ticket clients from that. And that's why we teach it we teach this. We give this to our mentorship students because we know it works, because in our own agency, we've landed, $5,000 a month clients. I showed you that in part 1 of the video, but he ran it. He ran the system. I set up the system. I do all the tech behind it, but he ran it. And so it was kind of out of my realm, really, to have the motivation to properly do it. And for that, I'm actually happy. And I'm happy because there's always more lessons in failures. And although this wasn't really a horrific failure, I think I spent like $200 when it was all said and done. I really didn't spend a lot of time on it because the system's already built, which you could find down below in the description, the snapshot of it. I'm sorry, you could find my free resources link and grab this whole packaged up snapshot there. And so ultimately the failure wasn't too bad. It was more about consistency of feeding the machine and having some sort of passion around what you do. I want you to take that away from this. If you're prospecting in ways that you don't want to, what's the number one thing that I've told you guys on this channel? Don't do it yourself. Hire somebody to do it for you. And so you need to take that as a lesson. And what I'm really excited about is this kind of is going to segue me into what I think is going to be the most important aspect of the challenge that I'm going to be running in January. Link is in the description and in the first comment down below. Is that, man, people choose prospect like the hardest prospecting methods. It's just crazy to me. And anytime I hear cold, I cringe. Matter of fact, even on our lives in our coaching program, Jason is a cold guy. He likes to do cold stuff. And I cringe all the time where I'm like, oh God, like you're going to go, it's such an uphill battle. But he has a passion around it. I don't. I'm a warm market guy. I'm a referral guy. I love referrals. I love warm market. I love talking to people. I love networking, telling people what I do. Just in my office the other day, just walking, I was throwing out a monitor. Some guy stopped me and said, hey, I'll take that. And I was like, so what do you do? He's like, oh, I have an office downstairs. I'm a roofer. My eyes lit up. Oh, you're a roofer. Well, this is what I do. And he's already come into my office 3 times begging me to sit down with him. He wants to get started ASAP. Now, that is what I'm going to be talking about in our challenge, prospecting the smart way. When you prospect the smart way, only then you should be adding these prospecting methods that you aren't even doing, that somebody in your department or maybe your partner or whatever it might be is doing, like mine does. And so the beautiful thing about failures is there's always more lessons in a failure than there is in a success. So take that as you will, and I appreciate you watching this, but make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. Turn those notifications on, because in the end, my consistency with getting content up is back to normal. So expect 1 to 2 new videos a week from now till the foreseeable future. Talk soon. Thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.